Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. First of all, I apologize ahead. I don't know why I woke up like this, so I sound a little congested. I'm not sick. And so, but first, thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. My name is Cal. I'm the mortgage sales manager here at Ideal Credit Union. I'm joined by Rachel Scarella, one of our trusted partners with Edina Realty. And as always, we're excited to kick off 2026 by getting you all ready for homeownership. And so, as the market continues to shift, I think it's really important that you continue to stay on top of it, stay informed, and really continue to educate yourself. So, before we get started, a couple of housekeeping items. The webinar is scheduled for about an hour and a half. We want to be cognizant of your time, of course. If we end early, great. If we go all the way up to 7 o'clock, 7:30. Um, Again, we appreciate your patience. So webinar is being recorded. We'll send you a copy of it if you'd like. And then last but not least, we do have the Q&A chat box open. So if you have any questions during the presentation at any time, please go ahead and enter the question into that Q&A box and we'll get to you as soon as we can. So um, awesome. With that being said, let's go ahead and get right into it. So first things first, this is me. My name is Kyle again. I am the mortgage sales here at Ideal Credit Union. This is me before I got LASIK. And so I've been here for about 9 years now. And it's a pleasure working with Ideal Credit Union. Lots of really good tenured members here. And best part I love about my job is that I get to help people get into homes. I never thought I'd be a homeowner until I got into this role. But I have, I'm married, have 4 kids. Outside of working, I like to go hiking, go fishing, really travel as much as I can. So again, this is my contact information. So, and we'll have this at the very end as well. So if you, again, have any questions, please reach out to me or to our mortgage loan officer team. So kickstarting 2000 and kicking off. So 2025, that was a pretty interesting market overall. The next, probably jumping ahead, but a lot of opportunities. Biggest challenge and opportunity probably being mortgage rates, how that's looked like, impacting affordability. The housing inventory is probably something that you always hear out there as well. Not enough homes on the market, and if the homes come on the market, they tend to go pretty quickly. But I'm going to let Rachel touch base on that. That's her area of expertise. And the last thing, last but not least, really borrower preparedness and understanding your financial situation. I will start this off. Everyone's timeline is very different. And so you could have been ready to buy yesterday, or you might not be ready to buy until a year or 2 years down the road. And so, but the goal is to, again, get you ready so that you're prepared and you're confident when you're ready to move forward. So interest rates, how does that impact you? So rates is probably what you guys hear most about, especially in the news. So rates impact 4 big things here. So number one thing is your monthly mortgage payment. So if interest rates are high, your monthly mortgage payments are going to be higher than normal. And then it also impacts how much house you can afford. So obviously with the higher interest rate environment, your payments will be higher, which means you will probably qualify for less. And then number 3 is it impacts the long-term cost of the loan. And I'm excited to show you the slide in a couple in going forward here, but you'll kind of see how much the savings are if there's a difference between a 7% interest rate and a 6% interest rate. And then last but not least, interest rates do impact the housing market. So the one thing I want to touch base on this is when rates are lower or not as elevated, sellers of homes are more comfortable moving or selling their house to buy a new property when life happens. Now, when rates come down, what ends up happening is it opens up a whole can of different home buyers that have been kind of waiting, kind of pent up demand, and they want to buy then too. So that's why I say interest rates impact competition, and it'll probably impact inventory levels because as a seller, you don't want to sell your house that you have at like a 4 to 5% rate to go up to a 7% interest rate to buy maybe the same amount of house size. And so that's when I say rates do impact the housing markets as well. I love showing this. This is kind of what rates have done in the last year. So if you on the top here, you're gonna see that at the beginning of 2025, the 30-year mortgage was right around 7%. And as the year went on, you can see it came down, went up a little bit, and then it's starting to the trajectory is that it's coming down, but at a slower pace, which is a good thing for us as buyers in the market. Um, And then you'll see on the right hand here, that's effective as of January 8th. Interest rates actually came down to about 6%, which is really good to see. So we've gotten a lot more inquiries since they see that rates are coming down. So more home buyers are getting ready since it's a new year to buy in 2026. This is the screen I was talking to you about. Finance options, right? So how do interest rates affect cost? Right here, so in 2025, if you were approved for a $400,000 loan at the 7% interest rate, right, you're going to see the 30-year term. Payments are about 2661 a month. So if your financial situation hasn't changed and you haven't bought a house, 1 year later, right, 2026, you're actually approved for a higher amount now because rates have come down a whole percent. And you're going to see here, so I arrowed this down, number one. So you've got an increase to your purchasing power, right? $50,000 more. Your payments are roughly the same. It's, $30 more, but again, it's about the same as it was in 2025 with a lower loan amount. And then number three is look at that savings, right? So this is interest that would be paid over the 30 years. And so you're going to see here 2026, if you paid 30 years, no extra payments, you're paying $521,000 in interest. Whereas, I mean, you're taking a higher loan amount, and because of the lower interest rate, you're paying less, interest. And so, this is where I think it's really important to see and understand how interest rates can impact, the cost, monthly payments, and how that impacts you. So, so why should you start planning now, right? Here's the honest truth. I mean, I've seen buyers take anywhere between 1 to 2 months to find a house, like getting pre-approved to buying a house, and some home buyers taking about 4 to 5 years. So the why you should start planning now is figure out your timeline. It's we're here to help you no matter which step you are at. But we want to just make sure that we're providing the right products that you feel confident when you're ready to move forward. Um, for me personally, I rented. I loved renting. I rented for about 8 years. My rent was $800 a month, and it worked great. The landlord never rose the rent, and I loved that. However, I had kids, and so after my second child was born, I'm like, all right, the oldest one is going to be starting school in probably about a year or two. I should probably find a house so that we can get them into school and keep them in the school district. So that was my why, and that was what prompted me to move forward. But again, I think you got to figure out your own timeline. So the planning process, number two. So number one is up for you to determine. Number two, I always recommend this. Meet with your local lender. Meet with Ideal Credit Union. We have great loan officers here. Cynthia has been here for about 33 years. She's the senior loan officer, and it's free, right? So it's free to meet with us. It doesn't cost you anything. We just talk to you and kind of get to know you a little bit and figure out what your goals are. So that way you can get an idea of what you would qualify for, figure out what loan programs are available out there, because I can tell you there's probably hundreds of loan programs out there. Um, Number three is if you need to improve your credit score, when you come in, we can kind of talk you through it and help you understand where the improvement needs to be at, and that way you can help increase your credit score. Number four, I love this one. Get clarity to reduce stress and increase confidence to learn about the different programs out there. There's, like I said, there's hundreds of programs out there. We're going to cover some more of that in later slides, but I think it's so important to kind of see where the savings could be, where you are in terms of like comfortability, and then talk about like affordable payments, right? So, and then last but not least, if you plan now, you don't have to submit an application. You don't have to apply for anything. It's just you can time the market and understand that you might qualify for X amount so that when the house does pop up, you're like, hey, I'm ready. I could probably just quick go in there, get it pre-approved, and then you're ready to make an offer. So we try to make it as stress-free as possible. But I always say this journey, right? So it's like there's a pilot and co-pilot flying an airplane, and you're the passenger. And so we're taking you from liftoff to landing at your destination, which is the house. Um, but on the flight, sometimes there's turbulence, right? And so what do? We let you know what the turbulence might be. That's part of the process of getting pre-approved, or um, maybe you're in the loan, fall into the loan process already, but there's turbulence. So we just kind of we guide you through it. We take you around, whatever turbulence is there, and then we make sure that you land safely and that we get you to your destination. So, um, so figuring out your timeline. So this again comes down to how you uh, I guess the reason why you want to buy a home, right? I can give you like 10 different reasons. And these are just from my past members' experience, kind of why people have come to try to find a house. So the number one thing is family and future planning. I think that's usually the biggest one is, they're just tired of renting. And renting is probably equivalent to them having a home. Um, Number two is you can control the decisions and customize the home how you really want to. I think that's a big part of the American dream is like to have something that you can do whatever you want with it. Like my basement, for example, I took off all of the ceilings and I put drywall in there. I created a room. Like it's those small things that really matter. Um, if you want to become the first homeowner of your family, that's a big one too. Just know that any future events, holidays will probably happen at your place because you're the first homeowner. Number four is you have a place for yourself and your future generations to call home. I think that's a big piece of it too. Um, there used to be a first generation program that was out there, but with being a grant and funds running out, a lot of people took advantage of the program, and so that's why again it was limited time, and unfortunately it's not there anymore. But this is where meeting with your loan officer can help you prepare and you know get ready in case something like that does happen again or does come out. So and then last but not least, building long-term financial investment and stability. Some people want to buy a home to build wealth through real estate, which is, again, I think it's a great strategy. I think it's a great way to move forward. Some people want to buy a duplex, live in one side, rent the other side, and have that tenant just pay for their mortgage. So lots of different reasons. Again, it really comes down to you to figure out what your why is. Connecting with your local mortgage team. So our goal when you meet with again it's a free appointment, right, free consultation. Our goal is to get to know you, what your goals are, and how we can help you attain those. And so I just want to stress the fact that, like I said, we want to be there and be available for you. I think that's one of the best things about a credit union is that we're membership owned, we're membership based, and so we can offer you competitive rates, we can offer you the services, and again our goal is to get you into the right financial decision that you want to make. So um, we talked to you about understanding what an affordable payment is, right? Where you want to be comfortably versus what your maximum budget is. So usually one of the most common questions I get is, what's the maximum that I can get qualified for? And when I tell them, it's $600,000, but your payments are $6,000, is that comfortable for you? Most of the time, it's like, no, I really don't. I don't want to have a mortgage payment of $6,000. And so that's part of our job, again, is to just educate you, help you understand that. And so the number three thing is we help identify some key qualifications, right? So when you come in, we want you to understand kind of what the qualifications are in terms of like your debt to income, um, what we look at, income credit assets. In the mortgage world, there's a ton of acronyms. So if you hear us saying certain acronyms and you're like, I don't know what that is, just stop us and like we'll explain it to you. Um, but debt to income is one of those acronyms. We call it DTI. We look at your income compared to what liabilities you have out there, and then we work backwards to kind of help you understand what you would be approved for. So we break down what a mortgage payment is, what's included in it, and then we explain to you kind of the down payment guidelines, depending if you're a first-time home buyer or if you've owned a home before, or if you're trying to buy an investment property. But really just figuring out those key qualifications for you. So number four, again, we explore available loan programs and options that are out there. Again, there's tons of programs out there, lots of down payment assistance programs. Every lender offers a little bit different program, and they also offer different down payment assistance programs as well. And so it just totally depends on, again, well, might as well start with your local credit union and kind of and then go from there. So determine your current position in the home buying roadmap. I think that's key because again, you might be at the very beginning stages where you're like, hey, I'm just trying to build my credit. I'm trying to save a little bit of money. Like I need some assistance to get me to my goal of buying a home next year. Like, how should I go about doing this? We're here to help you with that too. And so otherwise, like I said, if you're like, I'm already ready to buy, like our job is to get you that pre-approval letter so you can really start going out there to home search. And so so that's these are kind of what our goals are. It's really just to understand what you're looking for in terms of getting a house. Here's some pretty common questions we'll probably ask you when we meet. Number one is where are you hoping to buy, right? Location's a big thing. We finance in Minnesota and Wisconsin. We can do other states as well, but it's not through the credit union. Like we have to have a brick and mortar office in order to like finance in other states. But we do have Servion Mortgage who finances in 39 states, so we go through them because they're part of the credit union organization. And so where are you looking to buy? What type of home are you looking for? You know, like I said, are you looking for a duplex to rent out the other half? Are you looking for a condo because you don't want to deal with any of the lawn care? Maybe you want a townhome, right? So you don't have to worry about cutting the grass, shoveling the snow. Or are you looking for a single family home with a fenced backyard so you can have a dog? I mean, that's again, we ask you a few of these questions to see what you're looking to, what kind of home you're looking to buy. And it doesn't have to be like an answer right then and there, but it's just to get a good idea of, you know, a gauge of where you are. Um, we ask you when you'd like to start moving forward. Normally the response is 3 to 6 months, but again, everyone's got their own timeline. The other thing is we ask you what price, right? What purchase price you want to stay around, or what's a comfortable monthly payment range for you. That's also a really good question we like to ask because we want to be realistic and transparent with you. If you're like, I want $1,000 mortgage payment, but I want to buy a $500,000 house, that might not be realistic. And so we try to be as transparent as we can and give you an honest answer. So, and then last but not least, we've talked briefly about this, but understanding affordable payments versus your maximum budget. And so this next slide, I just like to go over this briefly. We meet with you, we talk about what a monthly payment looks like. So these are kind of the components of a mortgage payment. So you've got the principal and interest. So the principal and interest is, you know, that applies to the actual balance you're taking out from the lender, and then the interest that's being paid to the lender as well. Mortgage insurance is insurance that our borrowers pay for if they're putting less than 20% down. So it allows you to finance it to a house, but you pay the insurance to cover the lender in case something happens or you know you defaulted. Um, Property taxes are based upon the location and the house that you're buying at. We estimate those when we meet with you, but we'll get a more concrete number if once you find a house. And then homeowners insurance, very important. You know, we make sure that you have to get house insurance in case of fires or hail damage and whatnot. So homeowners insurance is something that you won't shop for until you have a purchase agreement, which means you've found a property, you've made an offer, and it's been accepted already. So and then the fifth part of the mortgage payment is homeowners association. So that's if you choose to buy a townhome or a condo, they have association dues, which can range anywhere between like $200 to $500. And so um, during the meeting with us, we also talk very high level about closing costs. Unfortunately, buying a house isn't free. There's a lot of costs that do come into play. Um, Rule of thumb, closing costs are typically between 2 to 3% of whatever the loan that you're taking for. So if you take a loan out for 100,000, closing costs will probably be like $3,000. Um, but what's included, again, I'll go over this very high level. If you wanted more information about exactly what fees are charged, reach out to me afterwards. I can send you something more detailed. But the loan charges include like you know the origination fee, which is the fee that comes to the credit union, the cost to do an appraisal, which is making sure the house is worth what you're paying for it, and then the credit report fee, which is the cost to just pull your credit. So One thing to keep in mind, those closing costs, we don't collect any of this upfront. So all of this is paid at the very end, at the closing. So other fees that do apply, title company charges. The title company handles all the recording of your mortgage, so they're making sure that the title of the house is transferred from the seller to you with no issues and that everything is good. Because that's, again, very important job, because if you buy a house and you take the loan out and the title is not in your name, you owe the debt, you don't own the home, right? So again, title company is very important. And then last couple of things here, I have the government recording fees. You're buying a house, county is going to charge you the taxes, this transfer taxes as well. And then there's prepaid insurance for your property taxes and your homeowner's insurance too. So we were talking about the components of your mortgage payment before. So when you make a payment to us, we collect one lump sum, and then the insurance, the taxes, and the homeowner's insurance, we just put into a separate account for you. And then when they're due, we just take money out of that account and we pay for it. So you don't have to be responsible for that. And so, again, happy to break it down more, but I just wanted to cover that high level because I think that'll make a little bit more sense on this next slide. So, key identifying, so qualifications. I'm going to take a sip of water again. So I wanted to give you an example of what we look at. So big three things, you got your debt to income, you've got your credit, and then you've got assets, which is what are we using for down payment, right? So on this screen here, we've got two borrowers on the top left. So they both make the same amount, which is $5,000 a month. So their total income each month is 10,000, right? Normally, the max that we want to qualify you for is up to 45% of your monthly income. And the reason for that is we're looking at your gross income. So we know we don't, I mean, after taxes and everything, we probably get maybe 65 to 70% of our actual gross amount. So for us, the maximum amount of debt we can have is 45%. So in this scenario, $4,500. Now, these two borrowers, they have a student loan, they have a car loan, and they have a credit card. Now remember, we're looking at minimum payments. So for these three items, the minimum payments are $800 a month. So we work backwards. And so we take away that $800 from the 45, and then we figure out what monthly payment you would be qualified for. And then that ends up translating into a dollar amount. So in this scenario, if this is exactly how you would qualify, right? There's two of you. You would be approved for a $450,000 home if you put 3% down. And so, um, again, these are estimates. I wanted to just kind of show you what it looks like. Obviously, if you have more debt or if you have two car loans, you gotta take away another $500 or whatever that minimum payment is. So, um, I'm kind of nerdy when it comes to kind of these numbers, but I always love to kind of show and give you an idea of what you would qualify for. And keep in mind when we're doing this, we haven't pulled credit, we haven't done anything in terms of like getting your personal information. It's just a conversation and you talking to me and you being honest about what your debts are and what your income is. And when you're ready, then we can submit the application. But for now, we're having a conversation about what we qualify you based on and how your financial status looks like. So credit score, really important. So a credit score is a number that shows how reliably you handle borrowed money. Score ranges, I'm sure everyone is familiar with it, is anywhere from 300 all the way up to 850. A good score, 670 to 740. Anything 740 and over is very good and exceptional. And so, why is it important? So, credit is like they try to make it a universal language to figure out like how trustworthy are you in terms of paying back the borrowed debt that you've taken out. And so payments, it's gonna show you that show the lenders you can handle back paying back the creditors. It helps build your financial reputation. So the longer you have credit established, the better your credit score will be as long as you pay your bills on time. And then you can leverage better credit scores to get better deals. So when I say that, like usually if your credit score is higher on the, for example, exceptional, you'll probably qualify for the best available rate. However, if you fall into like the fair or good category, you might see an increase in your interest rates. You might not be able to get what our posted interest rate is. You probably it because again, when you're in that fair to good credit criteria, it's looked at as a little bit more risky because they have to view the overall profile and figure out why the score isn't over 740 or where it needs to be. And so um, factors that affect your credit score, five big ones. So the biggest thing is payments on time, right? So 35% of your score is how often you pay your bills on time. And so nothing reports on the credit report unless you're more than 30 days late. So you could pay your credit card 15 days late from their actual due date. They won't report it. They might charge you a fee because you're late, but they won't report it to the credit bureau. Um, 30% of your score is credit utilization. So it's pretty much how much do you owe versus what's available. So if you've got like $1,000 credit card limit and you max it out, I mean, you're using 100% of that line of credit and you're not paying it off, that's going to negatively impact your credit score. 15% is credit age, how old your lines of credit are. Again, meeting with us is going to help because usually they want you to have at least 6 to 12 months of established credit. So if you don't have any credit at all, meeting with us and kind of understanding that would be like, okay, well, let's get you a secured credit card to get you on the right track to get a good credit score. So 10% of your score is credit mix. And so kind of figuring out if you have a car loan, student loans, credit cards, it's just the different types of credit you have out there. And then last but not least, 10% of your credit score is how often you're applying for new lines of credit. So like if you apply for 10 different credit cards within a couple months, I mean, they're probably going to look at that as a negative impact to your score because they're like, why are you applying for 10 different credit cards? Um, so, so again, some credit building tips here. Um, Consistently making your payments, right? So if you get pre-approved with us or you get pre-approved anywhere, continue paying your bills on time, continue making those payments because I've seen it knock down credit scores by over 100 points. Know your credit limits. Try not to charge more than 30% of the limit. If you have a limit of 1,000 and you use more than that and you pay it off every month, that's absolutely okay. But it's just we don't want you to use again 90% of your limit and keep it there and pay the minimum of $25. Because again, as long as if you continue to keep a high balance and you have no credit availability, that's going to negatively impact your score. Um, avoid closing accounts, especially ones that are older with higher credit limits. Again, length of credit established is again a portion of your score. Adding yourself to your spouse's older credit cards can improve your score. I've seen some of our members do this because what happens is when you add yourself to someone else's credit card, obviously ask them first and make sure they're okay with it. But if you add yourself on or they add you on to their credit card, you actually get that credit history and them, whatever, how long they've had the card and how many payments they've made, like you'll be able to get that credit. So it's going to help boost your credit score up quicker. And then last but not least, utilize those free credit report monitoring systems. Like Credit Karma is a great one. Get one free credit report a year just to make sure there's no fraud, dispute any errors. Sometimes collections are, again, put on there accidentally. Um, and so it's just important for you to, again, you get one free credit report a year, might as well utilize it and kind of see and make sure there's no outstanding errors on your credit. So. And then the last thing is that credit may be affected by others' mistakes. So co-signing on like student loans or other credit cards and auto loans, like if you co-sign, just know that you're liable for that debt, which means that if they forget to make a payment, you're going to become negatively impacted by it. So, um, meeting with you guys, we're going to talk about available loan programs. And so conventional loans are the most common type of mortgages. Again, there's a ton of them out there. This is just a few of them that Ideal offers. We offer FHA loans, which is a federal housing administration loan backed by the government. And then we offer VA loans as well, which you can finance 100% of the loan and you don't have to put any money down. We offer adjustable rate mortgages as well, which are pretty popular right now, especially with elevated mortgage rates. Essentially, what it is they offer with our adjustable rate mortgages. Here's another acronym, ARM. It offers an initial lower interest rate, So like for example, rates today for the 5/1 ARM is at 4.75, right? So you have a low rate, which means a low payment for 5 years, and then the adjustable, it can go up or down based upon the market. And so if you wanted to learn more about the programs, just reach out to us via email. Happy to explain it. Again, I think it's another tool you can have in your toolbox. You don't have to choose it. It's just, hey, this is what we got available, and we leave it totally up to you. We have a zero down program, again, very popular as well. Members can put no money down. They just pay the closing costs. The only caveat with this one is that you've got to, it's a 25-year term, right? So no, most mortgages are about 30 years. But the zero down program that we have it's a 25-year term, so it builds equity faster um, because you're putting zero down. And so we do a 25-year term so you can build equity faster on it. And then the last program, which is new, we have an equal access program that allows you to put 1% down because we're trying our best to fight affordability with inflation and how things are going. Like we're trying to find ways to help our members of ours get into homes without, deflating all of their savings and all their hard-earned money. And so just a few of the programs out there. Like I said, if you wanted to delve in a little bit more, please reach out. Um, Mentioned this at the beginning too. Lots of down payment programs out there. We partner with Minnesota Housing Finance Agency, which is a down payment assistance up to $18,000. Um, Again, variety of different. Two of them, the main ones are monthly payment loan, which acts like we'll call it a personal loan, where it's a 10-year term, and so you're taking two loans out at this point. You're taking your primary mortgage, and you're taking a second loan for $18,000, both tied to the house. But you're just making a minimum payment on it, or you're making a payment on it for 10 years, and then after 10 years, it's paid off. Um, the second one that is probably the most popular of the down payment programs is we've got a deferred payment loan where they can help you up to $18,000 for down payment for closing costs. You live in the house for 30 years, that is when it's due. It doesn't have a minimum payment on it. It's 0% interest. So it's deferred all the way till you either sell the house, you refinance, or it's at the end of a 30-year term. So outside of these two programs, we have a couple more that I didn't even put in here, but again, I think we have a $15,000 grant with FHLB. And like I said, if you wanted more information, definitely make an appointment and stop in. And again, happy to explore the different options. Down payment assistance programs, all of it, or I should say most of them, are very income driven based, meaning you've got to make less than a certain threshold based upon the area you're buying in. So the monthly payment loan here, you see this, I put income limit, so you can't make more than $142,000 a year. And that's household income. So it's anyone 18 and over living in the house or will be living in the house. Um, all their income is used, even though they're not trying to qualify with it, even though they're not trying to qualify for the mortgage. So, and then you can see here the deferred payment loan income limit's 89,000. So if you've got two borrowers making $100,000 a year combined, you won't qualify for the deferred payment loan. So again, lots of options out there. You don't have to make any decisions when we meet. It's all very informative and very high level to just help you understand what's going on and how we can help you. So we've met, we've talked, we've gone over a number of situations, a number of, programs, and you're like, gosh, now what? Well, if it all sounds good and you're like, I'm ready, I've been saving up, I've got some cash, all the programs sound great, I want to get pre-approved. Your next step would really be to submit your application so we could collect income docs and asset documents from you. We do a soft credit pull in your credit score, tell you what that is, make sure that everything we've talked about is pretty much going to match up to whatever the credit bureau is going to provide. We review, so we personalize it at this point. Tell you what the monthly payments are. We tell you what the interest rates are going to be. Rates change daily. You can't lock in your interest rate until you have an accepted offer in a house. We talk closing costs and then kind of estimated cash that you'll need at the closing. And so the pre-approval part is probably the easiest, as long as documentation is provided by you guys. And normally it's just pay stubs and W-2s, but with technology, a lot of it is done electronically. So you could just allow us to again verify your employment electronically, and it's instantaneous. And so, and credit pulls are pretty instant too. We just click a couple buttons and we can tell you exactly what your score is at, and if you've got any fraud or if you got any inquiries or any alerts. I mean, we can see it pretty quickly. So it sounds too easy. I know, getting pre-approved, right? Like I said, the big thing is we just review income, credit, assets, and so timing the market. So going back to my probably like third slide, why you should start looking now. Um, Housing conditions change quickly, and I know Rachel's going to touch on this. Mortgages have seasonality, and when I say that, winter seems pretty slow because sellers, I mean, no one really wants to move in the Minnesota winter. I mean, it's cold, it's snowy, um, but it tends to, so mortgages pick up a lot. The housing market picks up a lot in spring, and spring can either come in March when the weather warms up, or it can come later if the weather takes a little bit longer to warm up. And so we're usually pretty quiet in the winter, so we have very selective um, people that are like pre-approved and looking. So winter's actually a secretly good time to buy if you're comfortable, with getting pre-approved and finding a home. So I know I have a lot of buyers that come back every winter and they get pre-approved just because they like for example, the last 5 years they've bought 2 homes in the winter time. And they're like, this is the best time to buy. Like that's why we keep coming back, because we get great deals and we got the seller to contribute to closing costs. And so every winter they swing back and they're like, hey, I just want to get pre-approved in case something comes in the market. Um, so again, mortgages have seasonality. Three, stronger leverage when you're prepared, right? So we've talked, you're qualified. I'll tell you, hey, it looks like you'd be qualified for like 350,000. You don't have to worry like about, oh, like I totally forgot. Like I don't know what I'm approved up to. You can simply like hey, I'm approved up to 350. I can look at homes up to that price point. So if I found a house of 300,000 and I really love it, you can call us and we'll get you, the letter pretty quickly, and you can make an offer on the house. Versus if you don't prepare yourself and you're like, and I say this, most people dream about owning a home. They don't dream about a 30-year mortgage. All right. They don't dream about financing a house for 30 years. That's just not, no one wants to do that. And so, but again, it helps you again, be ready. Right. And so, and then last but not least, it makes you feel confident about making those decisions. Like you go into the house knowing, hey, all right, Kyle told me I was going to be pre-approved with 300,000. That was probably like a $2,500 payment. I'm comfortable with that, based on the rates. Um, and so it again allows you to be more confident in the housing market, and you don't have to again stress hopefully so much about it. Again, there is going to be turbulence. There are documents that we're going to be needing from you. It's going to feel like sometimes we're pulling tooth, but again, I like to try to be upfront with it and just let you know what might be coming your way. Ideally, I wish we could just take you through the whole process. Um, with no turbulence. I mean, smooth sailing, right? I mean, that's the goal. That's our goal, is just to make it as easy as possible for you. But again, I just like to prepare you ahead of time. So, home buying tips, fun stuff, right? So, if you get pre-approved and you're ready to buy a house and you're actively looking, please don't go out and apply for new credit. We do have a debt monitoring on because we've approved you based upon the snapshot of your credit, which means that if you applied for a new car and got a new loan, we have to reevaluate your financial status, and does that new payment impact you qualifying for the house, the dollar amount. We've talked about this. Continue making payments on time. That's also really important. Remember, when we get you pre-approved, we didn't do a hard credit pull, and we'll do that once you found a house, because it just, again, it's less costly for you. It doesn't impact your credit score. There's no hard inquiry. And so moving money around can complicate things, right? So if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to move $10,000 from this IRA account into my checking account, and then maybe we move from the checking to the savings, don't do that, because what will happen is we'll need to get statements and we'll need paper trail, which means probably more work on your end to get us transaction histories instead of statements, because statements haven't been cut off yet. So it'll make you do more legwork, is what I'm trying to tell you. And so, and then last but not least, don't quit and change your job. It's okay if you get a promotion within the same company. It's okay if you do get you get a new job. That's absolutely fine. And congratulations. But just know, if you end up quitting or getting a new job, we have to get 30 days of pay stubs with that new job and an offer letter to show what your new pay rate's going to be. And so that could delay the closing if you've already got an accepted offer on a house. Um, but again, it's okay to do it. It's just going to require a little bit more paperwork on your end. So you're pre-approved, right? The letter is good for 4 months, and the reason behind that is the letter expires because the credit report expires. And so once you're pre-approved, your next step is really to contact a real estate agent like Rachel herself. Again, fantastic resource. She's phenomenal. I used her to buy my house, and the process with her, the negotiation on Rachel's part was just it was awesome. I didn't have to do anything. I felt like I was going to have to negotiate, but she's like, nope, we're good. So she took care of it, all of it for me. So um, again, important to have a real estate agent on your corner because I'll tell you what, the listing agent, so the person, the realtor who has the house listed represents the seller, right? They don't represent you as a buyer. And so again, having a real estate agent is going to be crucial. So, um, but that's it for me. So if you have any questions, again, we'll have my contact information at the end. You're pre-approved. You're ready to start looking. Super excited for you. I'll check in every couple of weeks just to see how the house hunting's going. I have, we usually provide our cell phone numbers in case you find a house during the weeknights or weekends and you want to run numbers. We're happy to help and get you some more accurate estimates. And so, but with that being said, does anyone have any questions for me? I totally just didn't even look at the Q&A, so I apologize. I mean,
Any questions up there, or you want me to dive in?
I think we're good. I don't see any questions, so go
Okay.
ahead and dive in and just let me know if I need to move on to the next slide for you. Okay.
Okay. Sorry, you guys. I'm having a little computer difficulty today, so I'm just audio and I can't do much from here. But I will give you the lay of the land on how to buy a house from the real estate side of things. Okay. Next slide. So before we dive in to kind of what it looks like in terms of buying home on the real estate side of things with a realtor, let's talk about the market because that's extremely important when you're buying a house. So this slide here is it's updated monthly. The new one should come out tomorrow, so we're about a month behind. But this is as of December, and you're not going to see too much change on here. What I like to look at is what's our listing inventory at right now. So if you see here, November of 24 and 25 are basically identical. There wasn't a change. Active listings are down a bit. The month supply of inventory is down. We'll talk about that in a second, what that means. Pending sales were down, but the median sales price went up. Days on market on this slide are going to look relatively unchanged, but I'm going to give you some stats that aren't on there in a second. Next slide, please. So this is our pending sales activity. So this pending means a home has an accepted offer and it's in a pending status until closing. So if you look here, this is kind of how our housing market goes throughout the year. This goes back to 2023, but you're going to see dips in the winter months of when pending sales happen. Winter is inevitably our slowest time of the year. As Kyle was saying, it's actually a really good time to buy if you're looking to buy a house because you have so much less competition. There are less homes on the market in the dead of winter, but if you see something you like and you're pre-approved, don't wait because you are not going to be in the competition that you potentially will be in when we hit the spring and the summer. So next slide, please. Sorry, that's probably going to get annoying to hear from you guys. So absorption rate. What this means is how many homes are on the market. So a normal, stable housing market would have 5 to 6 months of home supply on the market. That's considered a balanced market. As you can see on this slide, which is kind of teeny tiny, we have been under 3 months supply of inventory for quite some time. So what this means is if all the homes are on the market, how long would it take to sell? And right now we're sitting at 2.4. Back in 2020, 2021, we had less than a 1 month supply of inventory. So we're gradually moving in the right direction. Again, this slide here shows you the full year for 2025. So we sat at about a 2.4 month supply. Now, I don't have a slide for this, but I'm going to give you some important information. Pending sales last year, so 2025 as a whole, these numbers just came out. We had 45,909. The year before, we had 45,000. Now, if we look back to 2021, there were 65,000 pending sales in the year. Closed sales mimic the same thing. In 2021, there were 66,000 closed sales, and last year we had 46,000. Now, 2025 is up about 2% from 2024, but the sales have dropped off. The market isn't as crazy as it was. Everybody probably has a horror story from home buying in the COVID era, and it's not like that. It's not as crazy. Now, one of the promising pieces of data that I pulled today, days on market. So what that means is how long is a home on the market before an offer is accepted. Now, this number is a little skewed because sometimes it counts things that are contingent, but we went from 43 average days on market in 2024 to 65 days on market. So that time has gone up. And the average amount of showings before an offer is accepted are only sitting at 9. So there's not as many showings happening, probably because I don't know, not the inventory level. That number is a little bit slower, but there's not as many homes to see for those showings in the winter. So what does this mean for you as a buyer? It means that right at this second, you are not in as much competition. We're slowly moving towards a more stable housing market, which is great as a buyer. We are seeing, last year was the first time consistently that I saw more and more seller concessions on offers where sellers were paying closing costs, buying home warranties, stuff like that. So it's a great time to be hopping in the market. All right. So what's the role of a realtor? So why would you hire a realtor? So you're going to hire a realtor for two main points, and they're kind of all going to be incorporated in these bullet points. But representation and education, I think, are the two main parts of my job. So the education piece can start well before you're ready to buy a house. I will meet with people, sometimes a year or two before they're ready to buy, and we're going to talk through kind of what we're doing tonight. We're going to talk through what the housing market looks like, what does the home buying process look like, how does your time frame work out. So your realtor's job isn't just the education part of finding you a home and going through that. It should be anything that you have for questions in advance. We are here to help with that. Now, representation comes in the form of a lot of things. We're here to represent you. We are here to negotiate on your behalf. Your realtor is going to do all the behind-the-scenes work for you. So we, like Hal said, we want to make this seamless and as easy as possible, and that's part of our job as a realtor. So we're going to educate. We're going to use our market knowledge. This is really important. The market's ever-changing, so you want somebody that's going to be doing this day in and day out, that they're going to have the experience. Okay, I'm seeing my listings are selling quickly, so I need to let my clients know that things are moving fast. Or, hey, things are sitting a little bit longer. You might have time to view a few more properties before you make a decision. So having that market knowledge is going to be key when you're searching for a home. We're going to show you properties that are the right fit for you. So I am not going to show, if you say, hey, Rachel, I want to live in Maplewood or Oakdale, I'm not going to show you something on the west side of town. So it's, I wanted to show you things that are right for you based on what you've told me. And we've talked about this, but negotiate, guide. Your realtor is going to have recommended professionals that they've worked with. A lot of times, this is my 20th year doing this, so I've been doing this for a while, and I've run into a lot of people that I would love to refer, and then I've run into a lot of people that if you say, hey, I want to use this person for my inspection, I might say, oof, let's look around a little more. So we will recommend professionals for you. We will provide you community information, if you have questions about school districts and stuff like that, that's our job to give you that as well. And then networking for you, a lot of networking behind the scenes is important. So when the market was really crazy, when we could find homes that weren't on the market yet for our clients, through networking, it was a really big deal that people could secure homes without being in competition, and we still can do that day in and day out. We can network for you. Edina Realty has a site called Network One. It's all off-market listings that our clients say, hey, we don't want to put it on MLS, but we'll sell it, so we have access to that. So ask whatever realtor that you're going to work with what they can do to network, because networking is a huge part of the job. And again, we're hired just to work for you. So we'll talk about this in a second, but you'll have a buyer contract that says the duties of the realtor in that. Next slide, please. Okay, so a couple home buying myths. One of them that we hear once in a while is I should use multiple agents because then I will have access to more homes on the market or more inventory. This isn't true. So we all have access to everything that's on MLS unless it's off market. So if you are working with an Edina Realty agent, that agent can show you anything that's listed through RE/MAX or Keller Williams or anything. So we have access to everything that's on the market. Second myth is that if you don't use a listing agent, that you'll save money and the house will be cheaper, that type of thing. 99.99% of the time, this is not true. So when a seller lists their home on their contract, it's going to designate the commission that they're going to be paying. Now, that commission is going to be paid whether it's to one or two agents. So by not having a realtor, you're not going to save money. That listing agent's going to just keep the full commission, and they are the only person that contractually cannot represent you and negotiate on your behalf. So you may lose money or not have somebody fully looking out for you throughout the process. All right, so this is just kind of the home buying process at a glance. We can skip through this one real quick because we're going to go over all this step by step. Okay, so step one, could be step two, is to choose a realtor. So get a referral. Ask your family, ask your friends, ask the credit union, who do you recommend and why? And then interview these people. Do your research. Ask them questions like, what areas do you work in? How long have you been in the business? Are you full-time? That, to me, is the biggest thing that you should figure out is your realtor a full-time realtor? You want them to be a full-time realtor for a few reasons. Number one, they're going to have more market experience. They're going to be doing this day in and day out, and they see what's happening. Number two, this is their job, so they're available around your schedule. If you have somebody that's part-time, maybe they have another job, and they're not going to be as readily available. And communication in this business is key. So typically, your full-time realtors are going to be, easy, accessible, and available for you whenever you need to see a home or have questions. Another common question that you might want to ask is, are you on a team? Are you part of a team? What does that structure look like? And there's no right or wrong answer to this. It's just important to know, if it's a team, who will you be working with? Who should your point of contact be? If it's not a team and let's say your realtor is going to go out of town, who's going to cover for them while they're gone? So these are important questions that you'll want to know before you pick a realtor. What type of schedule do they have? That's important as well. Again, my job is to work around my clients. So if they work until 6, then we're seeing houses after 6 or on the weekends. And you just want to make sure that your schedule will work with them. Make sure you click with one another. You're going to be spending a lot of time with this person, and it should be enjoyable. It should be fun. Make sure you trust them. Make sure that, they're a pleasure to be around because you want this to be a fun experience for you when you're buying a home. Then once you've interviewed the agents, pick one and commit to that agent. Now, some things have changed in the past year or two where we now have to have a buyer rep signed before we can show any properties. We can do one-time showing contracts, but with a one-time showing contract, we cannot give you any fiduciary duties. So we cannot negotiate on your behalf or anything like that with a one-time showing contract. That's just something to let you in the door. So in the buyer rep agreement, it talks about, commission and stuff like that. There's a commission line in there that says, we will pay this amount, but if the listing agent pays, it reduces this amount by that. So what that basically is a wash. So when we write an offer, we're writing in the commission and the seller's paying that offer. But you will have a buyer rep agreement that will need to be signed if you decide to work with a realtor. All right, next step, or next page, please. Next one is getting pre-approved. I've talked a lot about this. The only thing I'm going to add is that you want to have this ready before you're actually viewing homes in person. So when I meet with people, I get them set up on the One Home portal, which we'll talk about in a second, and that's kind of online shopping. You don't need to be pre-approved to online shop, but if you're going to shop in person, you're going to want to have your pre-approval ready. Worst thing that could happen is you find your dream home and you don't have that set, and in the meantime, while you're getting your pre-approval, that home sells. So you want to make sure that you have that before you're actually viewing properties. And a lot of times agents will require, that only pre-approved buyers can visit their properties because the sellers are leaving and getting the house ready for the showings. So just make sure that you have the pre-approval ready before you're shopping. It's also important because before you get set up on a home search, you're going to want to know, what am I qualified for? What do I feel comfortable spending? Because we're going to tailor that search around the price point based on your pre-approval. Okay, step 3 is to kind of refine your focus and get your search set up. So once my clients are pre-approved and they know kind of what price point they want to be at, we're going to sit down and talk or have a Zoom meeting or chat on the phone about what's important to you. Is it school district? Is it style of home, proximity to work? We're going to list all these things down, and then we're going to put it into your online search. So usually we like to keep it as general as possible so that we're not missing any inventory with the searches. But the main things that we like to talk about are, okay, location, that's huge. Where do you want to be? Bed bath criteria, price point, and then any other absolute must-haves. We're going to take those and then we're going to plug that in to the One Home portal. The One Home portal is through Northstar MLS. This is where every realtor lists their properties. We're going to put that in. It's going to filter a list for you of all the available inventory. Then, next step, please. This is when the online searching starts. So I always tell people you can search on any site that's out there. Just be aware that some of them are not as accurate. With the One Home portal, that is directly through MLS and it's updated immediately. So if a property goes pending or if a property has an offer and it goes contingent, it will be marked on the One Home portal versus some of the national sites listed on this list are not as accurate. Um, I cannot tell you how many times that I have a client send me a property and say, "Hey, this house isn't on my search. Can you look it up?" It's a Zillow link they'll send me, and I'll look it up, and that property sold 3 months ago. So just know those sites are very consumer friendly. However, they may not be extremely accurate. The best source of inventory that you're going to have is if your realtor sets you up on the One Home portal. So we're going to take the information after we sit down and talk about your list. We're going to plug you into the One Home portal. It's going to populate a list of homes for you. It looks like this next slide here, where it kind of gives you a list of everything that's available that kind of meets your needs. You can heart them, you can discard them, you can do whatever you want. And this online searching can start well before you're ready to actually buy a home. And I actually advise it, if you're looking to buy in the next 6 to 12 months, talk to a realtor and get set up on this search. It's going to be it's a great tool to have. It's going to keep you up to date on what's happening in the market. You can kind of track homes that you like, see how quickly they sell. So it's never too early to have somebody set you up on this search. But if we're actively searching, once we get set up on this One Home portal, then it's going to be time to kind of start viewing properties in person. So next slide. There we go. Thank you. When we view properties in person, so what we're going to do is my clients typically say, "Hey, Rachel, I went through my list. I love these 7 homes. Can we set up showings?" Yes, we can. So your realtor will go through the process of setting up the showings. Um, Private showings are going to be the most common that we do. So we're going to set up the showings. We're going to go view the properties. There may or may not be other showings happening at the same time. When we're in the thick of spring market, it's very common to have overlapping showings. But right now in winter, when there's not as many people, it would probably just be you and your realtor at the property. We have a certain time frame that we set them up for. Usually we get about an hour time frame. Not that we would spend that amount, but we have that to show up. So just know when you're setting up showings that we have to set it up through the sellers. They have to approve them. So give your realtor a little bit notice. If you see a place at noon that you like, it might be hard to get in by 1, but you never know. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up the showing. We're going to go view them. Another way that people can view properties would be going to open houses. This is a very informal way to view a property. Typically, it's the listing agent or a representative from the listing agent's office that's in the open house. They're going to be there to answer any questions that you have. If you are working with a realtor, just let them know when you get to the property that, "Hey, I do have a realtor. Here's their contact information." That's going to be extremely helpful in case, let's say, the property gets an offer and the agent can let your realtor know so that you can have this time to decide if it's something you're interested in. And then second showings, we do have more time on market right now, so we're seeing a little bit more of that. Let's say we go see 5 or 6 homes and you narrow it down to 2. We're going to go back if we have time and see that property again for a second time. So that's what a second showing is. Okay, so we've viewed properties and you've found the house that you want to make an offer on. So what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to figure out, what's the skinny on that house? Do they have other interests? Are there multiple offers on the table? Because that's going to pave the path of which way you're going to go when you make an offer. If a property has multiple offers, that means that more than one group is making an offer or has made an offer at the same time. With multiple offers, we do not know what the other offers are. We just know that there are other offers. In a multiple offer situation, we can almost guarantee that that property will be going for over list price. I say this because a lot of times when we're setting up searches, if we set up a search, let's say your comfort level is up to 350. If we set up a search and a property is a brand new listing and it's listed at 350 and it's a hot property, then there's a good chance that maybe that home goes for 360 or 365. So that'll be conversation that you'll have with your realtor about each home that you see. But once it's time to make an offer, we're going to gather that information, figure out if there are multiples. If they're not, then we can kind of look at certain things. How long has that home been on the market? What do the comps say that home is worth? I would say anything over 2 weeks is kind of real fair game for negotiating right now. So if a property's been on the market for a little bit and it hasn't had a price adjustment, then I'd say it's probably fair game to be able to offer a little bit less or ask for some seller paid closing costs. So the offer is going to be dependent on what's happening with that home at that certain time. Just make sure, like I said, that you're picking a realtor that has experience and that does this full time because they're going to give you insight on what they're seeing in the market. So when we make an offer, we are going to put in the following terms. So we're going to write in what are we offering. So that's our purchase price. We're going to designate the earnest money amount. So earnest money is a small chunk of your down payment. Average earnest money amount is 1%. And that is given to the listing company and deposited in their trust account within 48 hours of an accepted offer. So just know that you're going to need that money liquid, ready to go when it's time to make an offer. So we're going to designate the earnest money amount. We're going to pick a closing date. All of these factors are negotiable. Closing date average is about 35 to 45 days from the time an offer is made till the day that we close. Now, this could be shorter, it could be longer, depending on both your and the seller situation. We're going to put any inspection contingencies that we may or may not have in the offer. We'll put down personal property. So normally it's going to be our appliances that are personal property or window treatments. But if there's anything else that you're like, hey, this big mirror is attached, and if they take it down, it might leave a big hole, we'll write it into the purchase agreement and see what we can get out of that too. So we will draft all this up on the offer. You will review and sign it. A lot of stuff is DocuSign, but we're available to talk through these offers specifically. If it's your first offer, you're going to want to go through line by line with your realtor so they can explain to you what you're doing. But we're going to submit that offer once it's signed to the listing company. And then, next slide, please. If we are not in multiple offers, then we can probably negotiate, or hopefully we have the ability to negotiate. Now, with a multiple offer situation, I didn't really mention this. So you're giving them what's called your highest and best offer. Now, like I said, we do not know what the other offers for. We can kind of get an idea based on maybe how many offers they have of where their offers could be coming in, but we don't know the exact amount. So we give them the highest and best. And with that, what I always tell people is give them what you feel that you won't have buyer's remorse if you were to quote unquote win. But also that you're not leaving a little bit off the table if it's something like you're like, oh gosh, I wish I would have done a couple grand more. You don't want to have that feeling if after the fact. So with a multiple offer situation, we submit that. The realtor will sit down with their clients. They'll go through each offer, and then they'll pick one. Typically, they're not going to negotiate on anything. If they have one that stands out, they might come back and say, hey, can you switch your closing date or something like that? But they're not going to negotiate with all the offers on the table. So just know that with multiple offers that's the situation. But everything on a purchase agreement is negotiable down to the close date. So be prepared that, there may be some negotiations that go back and forth. Have the conversation with your realtor up front, like these are my hard passes. Like I'm not going to budge on this and I need this, so that they're aware when they have the conversation with the listing agent. Okay, after you have negotiated and potentially have an accepted offer, next slide, please, Cal. Thank you. Then it is time for your inspection contingency period. So we will write this into the offer, and we designate the amount of time that we have for this. So that could be anywhere. I would say the average is 5 to 7 days for your inspection contingency. And during this time, we have to do any and all inspections and do our due diligence. So the day that you get an offer, it's day 0. So the next day is day 1. Your realtor will keep track of these days, but it's also good for you to know that, if you want to set up your inspection, it's important that you call immediately to get that set up. A lot of us will, give clients a couple options of people that we've used, and if they want us to set it up, we will. So we're cognizant of that time, but just know that, 11:59 p.m. on the last day of your inspection period, if you haven't come to terms and you want some changes made, you need to do so by that time, because when the clock strikes midnight, you are contractually bound the way that the purchase agreement is written. And that's how the Minnesota purchase agreement is. So during the inspection contingency, we're going to do your general home inspection. So the inspection is based on square footage usually, and that can be anywhere, I would say, between $400 to $700, depending on the size of the house. There are common add-ons that are popular to add on. One of them is radon testing. That's a 48-hour test. So again, something to keep in mind with your time frame. Usually we like to have that radon canister delivered at the time of the inspection or 2 days before, and then you will get the results at the time of inspection or 2 days after. But it is a 48-hour test for radon testing. Another very common test is a sewer scope. If you're on a budget and you can only pick one, depending on where you live, if you live in an area like a city like St. Paul or Minneapolis, or the home's a little bit older, I would probably spend my money on the sewer scope, because that is going to be much more expensive if there's a problem or a defect than installing a radon mitigation system. So radon, we want that level to be at 4.0 or below. That's the level for EPA safety. If it's not, a radon mitigation system can run anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000. So that, in comparison to, let's say, if your sewer line is cracked or if something has to be done with that, that could be $5 to $10 grand. So talk through it with your realtor, and know that these are some common add-ons that you can have. Now, if you're buying in a more rural area, there's well and water quality and septic inspections. Typically, the sellers are going to pay for those and provide you with the results. So you've got your inspection contingency. Again, we need to negotiate anything that comes up during that. This is safety, structure, function. So we can do it a couple of different ways. If something pops up on the inspection, we can negotiate the repairs with the seller, and then they have to provide us with paid receipts. Or you can sometimes negotiate concessions if you want to take care of those yourselves. But you have to do all of that within your inspection contingency period. So very important to be mindful of the time that you have for that. All right, next slide. So once we're done with the inspection, there's going to be a little bit of a lull in action with your realtor. Obviously, we're going to be around for any questions that you have, but a lot of our stuff is going to be up front. We're going to do the home searching and the showings and get through inspection, and then after that, we kind of pass the file off to Cow and to Title, and they are going to, order the appraisal and do a lot of stuff behind the scenes for your loan. The next time that you'll likely see your realtor then will be your final walkthrough. And we do this final walkthrough usually the day of closing. So we will go back to the property and run through it and make sure that everything is in the same condition as it was when we were there last. If there's any inspection items that we need to visually check out, we'll have the receipts, but we can do that at that time as well. Make sure they didn't take anything that was supposed to be left. And then after the final walkthrough, we go to closing. Closing takes 45 minutes to an hour. At the time of closing, it will be you, your realtor, and your title representative. It used to be pre-COVID that it would be, the sellers and their title company and us all sitting at a table. And now since COVID, it's kind of changed a little bit, and it is just your side that will be at the closing table. So at the time of closing, you will want to make sure you have a valid photo ID. You'll have already either wired your funds to close, or you'll bring a cashier's check made payable to the title company. You will have seen almost all of your documents prior to closing because you have to sign a few of them up front. But if there's anything, your closing stack is going to be probably, anywhere from 40 to 70 pages. So if you think that you want to read through all of those, let your realtor know, and they're going to talk to the closer to make sure that you can get every single document prior to closing. Otherwise, at the time of closing, the closer will paraphrase kind of what you're signing so that you know what you're signing. But the closing, like I said, takes about 45 minutes to an hour. After closing, then the property is officially yours, and it's time to move in. A couple miscellaneous things. Upfront costs. I know we talked about earnest money. Just prepared to have that. Again, standard is about 1%. If you want to beef up your offer in any way, you can certainly increase your earnest money. Now, earnest money, I didn't know this before. It is refundable if you were to back out due to inspection, or if something were to happen with your financing. Like, let's say the appraisal comes in low and you can't come to terms. Your earnest money would be refunded to you. Your earnest money would be forfeited if, let's say, you get through all of your contingencies and your loan is good to go and you just say, oof, I'm not buying this house. Then there's a good chance that you will lose your earnest money. But otherwise, that earnest money is applied towards your down payment and your cash to close. Inspection is going to be an upfront cost that you pay. Appraisal, 99% of the time, you're going to pay it upfront as well. Warranties are something that we can negotiate into the offer. So let's say we are looking at a property that the furnace is, 18 years old, but it works just fine. The inspector is going to tell you this is on its last leg, but it may work well. And it's really hard to negotiate on something that works well. So then that's where a warranty would come into play, where maybe it's a good idea to have the sellers cover a one-year home warranty for you so that if anything does happen during that first year of ownership, you can have the peace of mind to know that you can call the warranty company and they will come out and repair or replace it. So again, that's not really something that's up front. It's something that we can negotiate into the offer. We can also negotiate it post-inspection, or you can add it on yourself at any time. But that's kind of the upfront costs and what to expect. And I kind of went through this stuff rather quickly, and I'm sorry I'm not visible, but if you have any questions, please throw them up on the screen, and Kyle can let me know.
Thanks, Rachel. That every time that you do this presentation, I always learn something a little bit more. So
Thank you.
nice job. Like I said, that absorption rate is pretty interesting to know, and hopefully
It
we are
is.
switching over to like a buyer's market.
We're
That's kind of the
slowly
hope.
getting there.
Yeah,
A buyer's
I know.
market would put us at 6 to 7 months supply of inventory. So we're not there, but we're moving towards stable.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So, kind of wanted to go back what Rachel was saying. So once we're past the inspection period and we're ready to move forward, that lull that Rachel was talking about, that's usually when the we start to, we reach back out to you and we get updated pay stubs if things are expired, and we order the appraisal of the title. All that happens, and the time frame is probably anywhere between like 3 to 4 weeks from us processing a loan to you moving in. And so a lot of stuff happens on the back end. You're really just there to provide us documents, and then you get to shop for house insurance. So And like Rachel said, a week before closing, we always get you a what we call a closing disclosure to show you what the final numbers are and what you'll need to bring to closing. And so closing days, awesome. It's super fun. Like I said, we've taken you through this whole step, this whole process, but the best part about this is the celebration at the very end. So like I said, a huge achievement to homeownership. And then once you get in, your realtor, Rachel, does a great job. She'll help you kind of set certain things up, like I think she helped me set up like my trash,
Mhm.
electricity, and certain things like that. And so, again, it's never the end when you close on a house. Like I said, if you ever have questions about certain things, always reach out to your realtor, always reach out to your lender. And so, um, on that note, does anyone have any questions? We're early, but that is absolutely okay. So, does anyone have any questions for either Rachel or myself? Um, just make sure that. Um, with that, I don't see any questions. So thank you so much again, everyone, for attending our webinar. We'll get a copy over to you. Take a look at it. You have our contact information right here. But like I said, we'll follow up with an email. Love to schedule a time if you're ready to move forward, or if you have more questions with Rachel or myself, just to kind of talk about what your goals are. And so thank you again for joining us. I hope everyone has a fantastic night. And yeah, take care, okay?
Thanks, guys.